Well, welcome everyone to Holy Wednesday.
Yep.
This is the day that we remember two specific things that happened during Holy Week, right?
Yes, that's right.
One is Judas agreeing to betray Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and two, Jesus being anointed by a jar of perfume in Bethany.
Yes. What's interesting about this day
Mm-hmm.
of Holy Week is that on actual Wednesday of Jesus' last life on earth, we don't really know what happened.
Mm.
If you read the gospel accounts, it seems that Jesus might have done some additional teaching in the
Right.
temple. It seems as if potentially the chief priests and the religious elite are plotting actively for a way to bring Jesus down. But what we remember on this day is precisely what you just said. The anointing of Jesus by Mary with expensive perfume and the betrayal of Jesus. And I think the way that we're supposed to understand it in the narrative of Holy Week is that up into this every day of Holy Week, Jesus has been making increasingly extravagant claims about who he is and what he's come to do. He's a rival king to Caesar.
Yeah.
He's a rival temple. He's a rival sacrifice. And he's calling on his disciples to join a rebellion and to burn the whole thing down.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
so you on Holy Wednesday, you kind of are forced with a choice. Whose opinion of Jesus are you going to land on?
Yeah.
And Mary and Judas give us two very different responses
Very different.
to the message that Jesus
Yeah.
has been proclaiming up until this point.
That's an interesting way to view it. Judas looks at this Jesus and he sides with the religious establishment.
That's right.
I've been following this guy for a while.
Yep.
But I've started to hear what he's saying and what he's claiming, and this is not the Messiah I've been waiting on.
That's right.
I think we should kill him.
Yeah.
And then Mary sees that this is exactly the kind of king she wants. She knows that he must die in order to bring about life and vindication and victory, and so she prepares him for burial.
That's right.
Okay,
And so
let's get into it.
So
I'm excited.
So the way the story works out in the narrative of the book of John is this actually happens before Jesus rides in to Jerusalem on a donkey.
Yep.
And what happens is Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead, and as they're celebrating at a meal with the whole family, Mary breaks out this very expensive jar of perfume worth about a year's salary, 300 pieces of silver. She breaks it open, pours it on Jesus' head and feet, and rubs it into his skin. And it's kind of socially awkward.
Yeah.
Like nobody was expecting this. This was not a common Jewish practice. This was not
Right.
this was not something that was done.
No, this was extravagant.
Super extravagant, kind of weird. Everybody
Out of place.
Out of place.
Yeah.
Everybody would have felt uncomfortable with what's going on.
Right.
But John tells us that Mary does this to prepare Jesus for burial.
Right, because normally after a person is dead,
That's right.
you would wrap them in like linen cloths and you would embalm them with different ointments and spices and things like that.
That's right.
Oils in order to make it smell better.
That's
you
right.
know,
That's right.
during the funeral, during the visits, things don't smell as rancid as they would as the body decomposes. So you would cover that up with
Right.
different perfumes and things. But Jesus is alive.
That's right.
When she's performing the embalming ritual.
That's right.
Which is very weird, and to do it at a dinner table is
Right.
extra weird. So she is going out on a huge, I would say, faith limb
I think
to
so.
do this. Yeah.
She's just watched her brother rise from the dead.
Yeah.
She has heard Jesus tell her that he is the resurrection and the life.
Yep.
And I think she finally understands that in order for Jesus to bring life to all people like he did for my brother,
Yep.
he has to die first.
That's right.
And so she's taking the most valuable thing she owns and anoints Jesus for the burial that she knows will save all God's people.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Which,
Yeah.
so simultaneously, we're transferred, imagine, hard cut to
Yeah.
the temple courtrooms.
Well,
the
because
Jewish Sanhedrin.
because you're gonna what they're talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
at the very same moment this is happening, Caiaphas, the high priest, along with the leaders of,
They're all talking about Jesus.
they're all talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
And they're all worried about what's going to happen and how Rome's going to come in and take away whatever sovereignty
right.
they have
Because
left.
there's this Jew who's claiming to be a king.
That's
They're
right.
going to come squelch this kind of rebellion, and we're going to lose what little power and freedom we have.
That's right.
And so they're like, we need to squelch this guy. We need to, and the only way to do that is to kill him.
Right.
And because if we don't, our nation is going to be completely overrun worse than it is by Roman powers.
That's right.
So they say, isn't it worth it for one guy to die to save a whole nation?
That's right. And so what's really interesting is that both Mary and Caiaphas have the same motivation to save the nation, to save God's people. And both of them want Jesus to die.
Right.
Isn't that really interesting?
That's very interesting.
So I think John is doing that intentionally.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So it's like everyone has to accept Jesus' death in one way or another.
Right.
But what does it mean?
What does it mean to you?
Is the important motivating
Right.
oomph behind this story.
Yeah. Okay, so Mary's anointing Jesus for burial. Caiaphas and the high priests, they are scheming to kill him.
That's right.
And Judas is in the middle of it.
Judas is in the middle of it.
He watches this extravagant sacrifice and he's offended by it.
Yeah.
He's
along with all the other disciples,
right,
actually.
Yeah. And so he's like, we should have given this money to the poor. If we were going to spend $300 on perfume today.
A year's salary.
Yeah, a year's salary, $300. It said 300 pieces of silver.
David doesn't take a salary. It's the gospel.
And they're really offended by this. And obviously this cannot have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Like it couldn't have been the reason, I should say, that Judas decides to betray Jesus. But it was the straw that broke the camel's back.
It is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
And so he ends up going to who does Judas go to betray Jesus?
Judas speaks up and says, this is a waste.
Yeah.
This is overly extravagant. And then Jesus has this really famous line where he says,
oh, the poor you will always have with you.
Yeah. Judas hides behind his piety, saying, wouldn't it be better that we sold this very expensive thing and gave it all to the poor? But Jesus responds by saying, no, you'll always have the poor, but you won't always have me. And what he's implying there is not that we shouldn't care for the poor.
Right. I've heard people say that. That's like, oh, we shouldn't try to solve poverty. Jesus said, well, you always have the poor. So why should we try to solve it? It's pointless. That's not what's being said here.
Because Jesus is highlighting the value of what he has come to do.
Right.
He's come to save God's people.
Yeah. Another way to say what he's saying is it's like an idea of like good and better. Because it's like, oh, that would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
Here's a better one. I'm here right now.
Right.
You'll have that opportunity to care for the poor. But right now, she chose the best place to put that investment.
She is responding appropriately to what I've come to do and responding appropriately to me in this moment. And I am worth all that she has.
Right. And I've also heard someone say before that the real gift that the poor need in that moment is what she was preparing Jesus for.
That's right.
They need the provision, the rich provision of Jesus' death on their behalf.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And John also tells us that Judas was pocketing money. When, like, from the coffers of the disciples, their bank account, whatever. And so when he sees this, he's like, okay, I can't profit off Jesus anymore. And this is when he decides to go to the religious elite.
He's going to find another way to profit.
And then offers them his allegiance for a tenth of what Mary offers, 30 pieces of silver to her 300.
A tithe. Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
I don't know what to do with that, but it's very interesting.
It is super interesting.
Okay. Yep. So he offers to betray Jesus, and that 30 pieces of silver thing, that's another prophetic fulfillment.
Yeah. There's mentions of that in the book of Zechariah,
which is the second this would be the second Zechariah fulfillment, because Jesus coming in on a donkey was one, and then the 30 pieces of silver is another reference in Zechariah.
That's right. I have a hard time following that thread in Zechariah because that last part of Zechariah gets really confusing.
It does.
But yes, he's also fulfilling what God promised hundreds of years before.
Something is happening there.
Yes.
Okay. So really what it sounds like to me is on the line here, and I think you said it really well at the beginning of this episode, is Jesus must die to save the nation of Israel.
And everybody recognizes it.
And everybody recognizes it and believes it.
Yeah.
But what it means to them is very, very different. Caiaphas and the religious order, they want Jesus to die in order to stop any threat of a Jewish uprising that would bring Rome down like a hammer.
That's right.
Judas wants Jesus to die because it's his only other way of profiting from
maintaining his standard of living.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which might be reductionistic, but anyway. And then Mary knows that Jesus needs to die because just like her brother, through death will come life. That will be the salvation of her people.
That's right.
Okay.
And so normally we've been ending these by saying, so why is Holy Tuesday, why is Holy Wednesday good news?
Yeah.
And so part of me wants to say, like, the challenge of Holy Wednesday is the story you've heard so far good news to you? Whose choice would you rather?
Oh, it's more of like a question.
It's more of a question. Do you see Jesus's death as worthy of all you have?
Right.
Would you be willing to waste
a year's salary
to prepare another man to die? Or will you find a way to kill him to preserve your own sense of life?
Because on this side of the cross, it's like leading up to Jesus' death, everybody agreed that Jesus had to die, so much so that it was almost already a historical fact.
Yeah.
It was inevitable. It was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so whose side are you on?
Yeah.
Why is it happening? And now on this side of the cross, it is a historical fact. It has happened.
Yes.
Jesus has died. So what does it mean to you?
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Is it just something, a fact of history that, it's the machinations of nations. And it was like, it was something that had to happen, or he probably said the wrong thing, or, people, it was a good guy who got crushed by a bad government, or, however you want to spin it. Or is it what Mary thought it was?
Yes.
Is it the salvation of all people?
That's right.
So it's interesting. Instead of asking the question, why is it good news?
It's like,
who is Jesus? What is Jesus' death to you?
Right.
Is the question that Holy Wednesday kind of presents.
Is everything that he's been saying up to this point, that he's the king of a new order, the beginning of a new religious establishment, is that offensive to you and want you to stop up your ears and not listen to it anymore?
Right. Or
is it causing you to pledge your fealty to Jesus, a man willing to die and who will eventually be resurrected? That's the choice Holy Wednesday offers us.
It's good. It's a good choice. Well, anything else?
That's it.
That's the choice.
That's the choice.
Make your choice.
Make your choice.
I love
it. And then we'll see you.
Okay, so then tomorrow is Maundy Thursday.
Maundy Thursday, that's right.
Yes, and Maundy means
covenant or command.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's going to celebrate the new covenant
that Jesus makes.
The Last Supper.
At the Last Supper, that's right.
So we'll have the institution of what a lot of people call communion, or the Lord's table, or the Eucharist.
Yep.
The Passover feast Jesus is going to do tomorrow.
That's right.
So that's exciting. Okay. Well, we'll see you guys on Maundy Thursday. I always heard that and thought it was Monday, Thursday.
Monday, Thursday.
But it's Maundy Thursday.
Maundy, Thursday.
Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Spoken Gospel Podcast. Spoken Gospel creates short films, devotionals, and podcasts like this one. Everything we make is free because of generous supporters like you. To see our resources, visit spokengospel.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. See you next time.